Today we get gifted an imaginary $250,000 and we get to decide whether we'd want a Subaru 22B or do we want a Ferrari 430 Scuderia. I know which one I would choose. Which one would you choose? We're going to get to both of those cars today and go through them in detail so you can best decide. Today we're going to break things up into three different sections. The first section is going to be a rapid fire of some significant results, some records, and some bargains. And then we're also going to go into the detailed auctions as we normally do. And then at the end, we're going to go through some trends that are happening in the industry. All right, now we're going to hop into the rapid fire auction results. We're going to go over record sales and then 4 bargains and then a little special bonus there at the end. So the first one that we're going to hop into here is going to be this E55 AMG wagon. These things are so awesome and they get such a surplus on top of the sedan cars. So this one went for 52 grand and you can see it had very low mileage at 29,000 miles. So that was like a record sale. And looking at this chart, you can see where it showed up. Now we're going to take a look at a red sports car, and today you're going to see we're going to have a whole bunch of red sports cars. So this one's a Boxster S. This was unprecedented price on this Boxster S for an 02 6-speed going for 35,000. Look at this chart and you can see that it's out of line. It was Carrera money for sure on this one. Jumping into the next one, we're going to look at this Rivian R1S Launch Edition. So this one went for 100 grand. This also is getting the money that they were getting originally when they first came out. So this one, I'm not sure why, but it went for top dollar. Now we're going to get into some of the bargains that we saw out there this past week. So the first one is this really cool CL550. Older Mercedes, like I've been saying, for sedans and for coupes. There's some deals out there as well as some of the convertibles. And so this is an example of one. This had low mileage. It was presented very well, 78,000 miles. This car is fantastic. These V8s last forever. And so this was $17,000. In a similar vein is this 05 612 Scaglietti. These cars are controversial as to how they look. Some people love them, some people hate them. Nonetheless, it's a V12 Ferrari, and this one had been used, so it had 31,000 miles on it. It looked like it was presented in really great shape. For 77 grand, have yourself a sweet V12 Ferrari. Now we're going to take a look at another Mercedes, and this one at E55. This had a bunch of miles on it, yeah, but look at the price. It's $11,000. What a deal on this thing. Now remember, we looked at that E55 wagon, and that was low mileage, right? 29,000 miles, but this thing went for 52 grand. If you look at the sedan, it went for $11,000. This is a lot of car for that money. Yeah, it brings along some of the maintenance that comes with it, but that engine is rock solid and it's just a great car. All right, now we're going to take a look at something that was a little bit different in a Ford. This being a 1943 Ford armored vehicle. So this was used in World War II, I believe, and then it was left behind and brought over, and it's had some refurbishment. It needs some more, and it needs an engine in it, but super cool. It didn't sell. This thing originally sold a few years back for $71,000, and now it didn't sell for $32,000, so somebody took it in the shorts on that one. I just wanted to show this just because I thought it was really cool. Okay, now we're going to transition over and we're going to hop into our full-blown auctions. Now we're going to take a look at this Evo 10, 2014 Evo 10 that sold. Said it had $60,000 in modifications. I believe it. Dynoed at 657 horsepower. Really cool. It was completely gutted out. You can see here it only had 54,000 miles on it, and it had a complete engine rebuild. Looked like a great car. You can see it has full race seats. The interior has been gutted out. The engine looks fantastic. Under the chassis looks fantastic. It was in really good shape, but you're always taking a risk when you buy something that's this heavily modified, more than double the stock horsepower, far more than double the stock horsepower. And this is an example. Way back in the day, I had bought a Supra, highly modified. That was a perfect car. I had also bought an IS 300 highly modified, and that was a disaster. I spent so much money getting that thing back running in good shape so that I could get rid of it. Nonetheless, this car looks fantastic, and it sold for 34 grand, and if this was what somebody was looking for, they got a great example. All right, now we're going to go over to a little bit more of a popular supercar, if you will. So a 2007 F430 Berlinetta. These things are fantastic. I love the 360s and the 360 sound, and the 430 is even better. This one in Rosa Corsa, and it had a bunch of miles on it. I'll scroll down here. 45,000 miles on it, which isn't an issue as long as somebody maintained it. If they did, then this is actually the car that you would want to have, because it's been driven and it's been heat cycled and it's kept in running order. Cars that sit for long periods of time develop lots of problems, and that's what you don't want when you get into a car that's expensive to maintain like this. I think this $100,000 price on this car is very fair considering the mileage, and I think that it was probably a good purchase, and somebody's going to really enjoy this for a long time to come. Speaking of red supercars, we're going to take a look at this 2005 Ford GT. So this one has all 4 options on it. Stereo, stripes, painted calipers, and upgraded wheels. Those were the 4 options. I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but I know what the 4 options are on the Ford GT. So this one went for $350,000. You can see on the chart here that it represents a pretty average price for these right now. They seem to be consolidating around that $350,000, perhaps a little bit higher. The reason why this one didn't go higher was because it had a series of flaws. And the primary one, although you can see all of them here, the primary one that kind of concerned me the most was the dash. It looked like the dash was bad, and they had a replacement dash. And so I think that hurt it, along with the paint chips and the other things. With a little tender love and care and a little bit of money, this will probably be right back. And considering that it only had 6,800 miles on it, you could get a little bit more value out of this if you put some love into it and got all the flaws fixed. Moving on, we're going to take a look at a Toyota Land Cruiser in red, of course. Well, kind of red. It's like a burgundy. The reason why I wanted to look at this one is this is a prime example of one of the things that I've mentioned where these low mileage cars are getting excessive amounts of money, in my opinion. A Land Cruiser that has 17,000 or 47,000, there's no difference. No difference at all. That thing's going to run and drive forever with regular maintenance. And this one at 17,000 went for 58 grand. That's a very high amount for this vehicle. And so it's just a perfect example of mileage getting top dollar in today's market. Great car, and kudos to the seller on this one on getting top dollar. As if 3 red vehicles weren't enough, we're going to have another one here. This is a C8 Corvette, and it had 3,700 miles, and it went for $79,000. So I did a little bit of digging, and since there's been so many price increases on the Corvette, looked at the MSRP on this one, it went for $82,000. This car was highly optioned with the 3LT and the Z51 performance package. With the buyer's premium, this sold for basically MSRP from when it sold back in the day. It's an interesting little nuance where these bigger packages and highly optioned vehicles are getting a little bit more of a premium. All right, now we're going to take a break from all these red cars. We're going to take a look at a black Ford Mustang from 1986. So a Fox body Mustang. This thing has all kinds of modifications on it. The whole car is modified. Suspension, transmission, the interior, everything. And it's modernized for the most part on the interior with the stereo, with Bluetooth and that type of thing. And then from an engine perspective, it was making 400 pound-feet of torque, 400 wheel horsepower. That's a lot of horsepower for a car that's this light. I'm sure whoever gets this thing is going to have an absolute ball. It looks really cool. It doesn't represent a high price for these cars. The highest price for the Fox bodies are on unmodified low mileage examples, just like what we're saying on the Toyota Land Cruiser. Really low mileage is getting top dollar on these Fox bodies. Everybody wants one that was unmolested because every one of them was molested. All right, that does it with our cars and bids auctions. Before we go into Bring a Trailer, I just wanted to mention I noticed quite a few of reserve not mets happening this week. It was a little bit of an increase. And in the trends that we have at the end of the video, I'm going to go into more detail on that specific to Bring a Trailer as well as cars and bids. All right, now we're going to start off our auctions on Bring a Trailer. And the first one up is going to be this 2002 Nissan Skyline R34. This is a beautiful car. It was in Melbourne, Australia, is where it was sold from. And I'll scroll down so you can see a little bit of the information on this. It had 75,000 miles, but this car had been gone through a whole bunch. tons of information on it, and it was in that Millennium Jade, which I think is a fairly rare color, which might have contributed to some of the pricing on this. We have talked about one of these before, and they always bring top money. This one got a number 2 result at $341,000 for a car that had 75,000 miles on it. So I think that was pretty outstanding from a result perspective. There was 285 of these made. This was number 82. This was an exciting auction to watch because there was 2 people who bid against each other on multiple occasions, bidding on this one towards the end. And they bid it all the way up from below $300,000 all the way to $341,000, as you see. And there was a little bit of talking, we'll say, during the auction, and so that made it a little bit more exciting than normal. So this one was really cool to watch, and a number 2 result. All right, now we're going to move on to a really cool Volvo. You may not believe me, but it's cool. All right, here we go. This 242 Volvo from 1982, it had an LS3 swap in it. I was reading some of the information on this. I believe that it actually had a 302 Mustang engine in it previously, and then it got swapped to the LS3 later on in around 2015. This person had put about 40,000 miles on it while they had it, so you can tell that it's super reliable and they enjoyed the car immensely. What an absolute sleeper this car would be, and it would be just a total blast to take around. You could take it to Cars and Coffee and it would be just the Focus there, or you can just take it out and drive it around. It looks incredible, and it got a top result. All right. Now we're going to go on to another all-wheel drive car. This time, a Subaru 22B. These have a little bit of a following behind them. They made about 400 of them originally, and this car looks fantastic. It had some miles on it as well, at 115,000 miles, but it had a complete engine out on it, and the engine was completely rebuilt just in the past year. This car came with a show and display title, and if you're not familiar with those, they restrict the amount of miles that you can drive on the car, and the sole purpose of the car being in this country is just for show and display, not for driving around, commuting, and that type of thing. I thought that that would have a bigger impact on the price. I was actually shocked at this price. $226,000 on this car was shocking, and I wasn't the only one that was shocked by it. Now, since the engine had been completely redone in the past year, that may have had an influence on the price, and it looked like that person did just absolute top-notch work, and there was tons of video, photo evidence, everything else, and so that's probably what kept the price buoyed up there. There's been a sale that was higher than this, but it was for a very low mileage example. This fetching the 226 was shocking to me, at least. It's a staggering price, but it's a beautiful car, so kudos to the seller on this one. And don't forget, this is on one of our hands of our imaginary $250,000, and the other car that's on the other hand is this, a 2009 430 Scud. This one has 20,000 miles on it. It went for $245,000. That is an relatively average price for these. I'd say a little low maybe, and you can look at the chart on this to see for yourself. But nonetheless, this one in yellow is not as common as the red and the black ones were. And so I actually think that this looks fantastic. Whoever got this car got it, and I'd consider it at a really good price. These are going to go up, and with 20,000 miles, the new owner isn't going to be panicked about driving it. So that you can go out and enjoy it, take it to Cars and Coffee, take it on a road trip, have a good time with it. These are fantastic cars to drive. I've driven them on the track. I've never driven them on the street. I've heard they're a little jarring on the street, but it's just going to be a weekend fun car, and an amazing weekend fun car. So now you've seen both of the cars. You've seen the Subaru 22B. You've seen this 430 Scud. Which one would you choose? I know which one I'd choose, and it'd be this 430 Scud. I've driven them, and I love them. All right, now we're going to return to our roots, which is red sports cars for this week's video. And this one's a doozy. So this is a Ferrari Dino 246. This car was originally sold/leased in California, and then it went to Germany. And then it made its way back to the US in 2017. It was displayed in 2017 at Pebble Beach, and it won the People's Choice Award at Pebble Beach that year. It seems like it was refurbished around 2014. This came with a lot of history as well, including the original listing. for when it went for sale in 1973 on the Ferrari site in California. And so it was really cool that it brought all that documentation with it. This sale represents a number 3 sale for Dino's on Bring a Trailer. And so it was a top result, and it's probably well deserved. All right, that does it for our auctions this week. Now we're going to go into our industry trends, and then today we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening with these online auctions houses. Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids. On Cars and Bids this week, there were about 115 listings. Of that, 13 of the cars did not sell. That's 11% that aren't selling on Cars and Bids this past week. I have not been tracking this previously, and it's a little bit more difficult to gather that information on Cars and Bids than it is on Bring a Trailer. So I'm going to start tracking that going forward. Bring a Trailer had about 700 auctions this week. Some of that isn't cars, but most of it is. So we'll just go with the 700. So 700, there was 141 that did not meet reserve. And so that's about 20%. So that's a little high. I went and looked at the previous month, and on Bring a Trailer, they were averaging 17, 18% were not selling, did not meet reserve. And so this 20% for this past week represents a high percentage. We'll take a look in the future and see if we find some more trends and if there's more information on that we can learn over the coming weeks. The car market at this point is really like this two-tailed animal. We have these record prices that are just absolutely crazy, like the Boxster. That was the crazy one for this week in my mind. There was others that were bigger dollar figures, but that Boxster that went for $35,000, that was just absolutely absurd. And then we have some deals out there like I showed at the beginning, and so it's this really weird situation going on where you're breaking records and then things aren't selling. And so we'll just keep an eye on it, see if we can track that down to specific cars. It's real interesting to watch that develop over time. I want to thank you for making it this far, and if you've made it this far, please give me the thumbs up below and subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Also, if there's auctions out there that you're interested in, please let me know, especially the amusing ones. I always love to see those, and we'll see you out there next week in the next one.